Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to check out City Tycoon. It's for 2 to 5 players for ages 10 and up, with the average playtime being about 75 minutes. So as the name implies, this is a city builder-esque kind of game that tasks players with putting tiles down into a centralized grid or city, and the person that can do it the most efficiently will end up winning the game. So without further ado, let's take a quick look at the components and see how the game is played. Okay, so before we begin, it's worth noting that I am not going to be using all of the tiles necessary to actually play the game. I'm only using some of them to illustrate, in a general sense, how everything works. The game just comes with too many tiles for me to bother setting everything up and then only go through 1 or 2 actions to show you how the game is played. So keep this in the back of your mind. I've got a bunch of tiles in the box. I've got a bunch of cubes in the baggie. These are resource cubes. I've got some money in a baggie as well, and I've got some player markers here. But I did, lay some out so that I could show you, the general stuff. It's worth noting that these baggies did not come with the game. I had to use baggies from another game, which is kind of disappointing because this game has a crap ton of tokens and a crap ton of tiles, and for them not to include baggies is just kind of ridiculous. But I'll get to that later. So this is basically how the game is set up. You've got these double-sided water and grassland tiles. You're going to put some off to the side like this. You've got some power plants and some water plant tiles here. These are purchasable throughout the game. What you're going to want to do, there's little numbers on the left, not the ones with the dollars on them. Let's see if I can get closer. But there's like a little 1 here on the left-hand side above this 4, and basically you're going to lay them down in order from 1 to 6, with 1 being on top, 6 being on the bottom. You'll do that with both of these stacks. You've got this scoreboard here. Players will go ahead and receive player markers of one particular color or type, and then they'll go ahead and take 1, put it on the 0 on this scoreboard here, the score tracker, and they'll also, at random for the first round, put 1 over here on this player order track. Again, this is random for the first round. So after that, players will also receive some money. Whoever goes first gets $20. The second player gets 22. Then the next player gets 24, and so on and so forth. You'll also want to take all of the tiles and separate them into their Roman numerals on the backs. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, a bunch more in the box, but I didn't feel like, going through all of that. So basically, just put them into stacks, 1, 2, 3, 4. You do have some starter tiles, and the starter tiles have an S on the back. There's 4 of them. So you're going to lay them out in a particular way. The manual tells you how to do that. Now, if you're playing a 2-player game, you're going to be blocking off 2 sides with these water tiles like that. That's just to prevent, one player from concentrating on the left side and the other player concentrating on the right. If you're playing with 4 players, however, these go away. So yeah, there's little notations in the manual regarding stuff like that. You'll also want to put down a number of these resource cubes on these particular plants. This blue one is a water plant, the red one is an electric plant, and you'll put a number of these cubes down equal to the number of players. So I have a 2-player game set up right now. So there's 2 blue cubes and 2 red cubes. And I do believe that concludes game setup. Okay, so basically the game is played over a series of rounds, 4 to be exact, and that's actually representative of the 4 different stacks here. You'll be using the 1s during phase 1, the 2s during phase 2, the 3s during phase 3, and the 4s during phase 4. And these buildings get more and more technologically powerful as you progress. Like, you'll start off with some simple ones in the 1 deck, and then in the 4 deck you'll get some really powerful tiles that can really produce a lot of resources or goods, whatever the case may be. Oh, speaking of which, I did mention that the blue was water and red is electricity. Yellow up here is goods. So you'll be producing goods throughout the game, and this larger yellow cube represents 5 of the smaller yellow ones. So as far as the round sequence goes, there's no reference cards to give to players, so I'm going to be referring to the manual from time to time, because again, I don't have a photographic memory. The first part of a round is player order. The second one is new tiles. Third is building. 4 is supply, and 5 is cleanup. As far as the first one goes, player order. Again, player order is random for the very first turn of the game, but the way it works in the following rounds, basically, whoever is the most poor will be first in the next round. So basically, players will, in rounds 2, 3, and 4, players will take a look and see how much money they have, and then based on how much money they have, they'll go ahead and order themselves on this track here. Now, the second part of a round is the new tiles phase. And basically, players will receive 6 tiles from whatever round that they're on. So if they're on the first round, they'll receive 6 tiles from the first stack here. And players will basically take a look at these, okay? And then they'll go ahead and draft. And the way the drafting occurs, if you've ever played Sushi Go, it's very similar to that. Players will keep one and pass the rest around. So this player here is going to go ahead and take a look at his tiles, and, you know, just, again, I'm not trying to actually play here strategically, so I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to go ahead and pick, say, this one here. He's going to keep that tile and then pass the rest to the player off to his left. Since there's only another player, you just pass it to the other player. And this player is going to do the same thing. He's going to take a look at his tiles. He's going to keep one, pass these 5 remaining ones off to the other player. And then we're just going to keep doing that. This player's going to take a look at the 5 tiles he just got, pick one, pass it off to the next player. And then this player's going to do the same thing. Choose one, pass it off. And you get the idea. Basically, at the end of this process, everyone will have, again, 6 tiles. This won't be the original 6 that they drew, unless, you know, they're really lucky or something. So that concludes Phase 2. Phase 3 of a round is building, and basically on a player's turn, again, this is all done via player order, so whoever's first will start the process first. During the building phase, a player can do one of 3 things. They can build a district, build a water plant or an electric plant, or they can sell a district. To build a district, basically they take a look at their hand. This player goes first because they're first on the tracker there. He takes a look at his hand, chooses one tile, and then places it somewhere adjacent to an existing tile like that. And then he has to pay the cost of that tile here in the lower left-hand corner. If he doesn't want to do that, he can buy a water plant or an electric plant. To do that, he chooses one, discards it, and then chooses either the electric or the water plant from up here. Now these are double-sided, so the player has the choice of using either or. And they have different icons on the bottom. This little recycling symbol means that these resources will regenerate every round. Whereas with if there's no recycling symbol, then it's a one-time use kind of thing. It'll generate 3 power, and then once it's used, that's it. It can't be used anymore. But during Phase 5, which I'll get to later, if it has a recycling symbol, you'll regenerate that power with more cubes. So you could do that. You can opt to discard a tile in order to buy one of these 2, and then you can put it next to an adjacent tile like you would with a standard tile. Finally, if you don't feel like doing either of those 2 things, you can sell a district. And basically, you take a look at your hand, choose one, discard it, and then you receive $5 from the bank. Okay, so to save on time, I went ahead and just threw some tiles down onto this grid and also assigned some player markers to these tiles. Now, whenever you put a tile down, sometimes said tiles will generate extra grass or extra water, which is what these are here. As you may have noticed, there's some more water and some more grass that wasn't there before. Some of these tiles actually have little symbols on the left-hand side, like there's grass and there's water. So whenever you place these tiles, and then you claim it as one of your own, you're also going to need to put grass or water, whatever it says here, next to that tile, as dictated by the tile. If you don't have the room to do it, then you'll just ignore that stipulation. And then you'll want to put one of your player markers on your grass, but not on the water. The reason for that is because you can move resources through grass, but you cannot move resources through water. Players don't own water, but they can own grass, okay? So, what do I mean by moving resources? Well, moving resources basically ties into Phase 4, which is supplying districts. Starting with the starting player on the order track, that player will pick one of their districts to supply with resources. They can grab resources from any which way they want to. They can grab multiple resources from any which way they want to. So if one district requires power and water, they can take water from here and electricity from here. But they may have to pay a cost, and this is where ownership comes into play. So just as an example, let's take a look at this tile here. According to this, it needs 2 electricity in order to generate $7. And varying tiles have varying stipulations, like this one here needs 1 water to earn $5, and also 1 water to generate a good. Yeah, that's what that is. Okay. And some of them generate victory points. So varying tiles have varying costs and rewards. And this is just Phase 1, mind you. These are the Phase 1 tiles. Phase 4 here, as you can see, has way more icons to worry about. Just because, again, this represents like future technology kind of thing. Okay, so again, getting back to this, Phase 4, let's just say that this player wants to supply this tile. And to do that, he needs to get 2 electricity to this spot. Now, the way this works is whenever a player takes from a power plant that does not belong to him, in this case, he's looking at this one here. This one is owned by the other player. He has to pay $2 per cube that he's moving, okay? So basically, there's 2 electricity here that he wants. So he's going to pay $4, because there's 2 of them, to basically buy this power from that plant. Now, you also have to pay transportation costs to move through property that does not belong to you. So if he were to go through this property here, he'd have to pay an additional $2 per cube in order to move through it. But he doesn't have to do that because he owns this property, he owns this property, he owns this property, and of course he owns the one that he's trying to supply. So he could move that power, or that power around this property here, so he doesn't have to pay any transportation. But he still has to pay the plant owner in order to get that electricity in the first place. Now, whenever you're buying from the city, you pay to the bank. And these 4 starting tiles here belong to the city. They act as one entity. So let's say you were moving electricity. Again, let's just, for example purposes, let's just say that you're moving electricity from up here through the city down this way. You'd only have to pay the city 1 time, okay, to move through their property. So you would not have to pay, let's say you're moving 1 cube, $2, $2, $2. You don't have to do that. You would simply pay $2 to move through the city, so all the way through. So that's one quick stipulation to think about. So basically, he's going to go ahead and pay $4 because there's 2 cubes to buy this power and then put it on top of his plant like that. That plant consumes that, or this particular property consumes that, and he gets $7 from the bank for doing that. And then players will take turns doing that over and over again, supplying their various districts, earning whatever rewards they get from that particular tile until there's no more districts to supply, or there's just no more resources to basically distribute. Alright, now just a few other things to note before we move on to Phase 5. It's a good idea to leave these cubes on their districts whenever you supply them. The reason for that is because you can only supply a district once per phase. So even if you have electricity from some other source and you can power it again to get its benefit, you can't do it. You can only supply a district once per phase. So you've got, again, 4 phases. So at most you'll see it supplied 4 times. Alright, and the other thing to mention real quick is that goods do not have a transportation cost, okay? You only have to pay attention to who owns what when you're buying electricity or water, and also moving water and electricity through property. Whoever owns it, gets that money. Goods, on the other hand, you don't have to worry about. You can move those freely. And that basically concludes that. And then Phase 5 is the cleanup phase. Very simple to do. Any districts that were supplied, you're going to take these cubes off. And then any water plants or electric plants that have the little recycle symbol on it, you'll simply put that many resources back onto it. Again, with the starter tiles, it's how many people were in the game. So there's 2 there. There's a recycle symbol here. This one has a recycle symbol, so this gets 2. This water plant does not have a recycle symbol, so unfortunately does not generate any more resources. This water plant does have a recycle symbol on it, so it gets 1, and so on and so forth. And then that basically ends Phase 5. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Players will move on to round 2, they'll do the same 5 phases, and then they'll move on to round 3, do the same 5 phases, round 4, same 5 phases. And then at the end of the last round, players will take a look and see how many victory points they've accrued. Again, they'll be earning victory points via these various tiles here. I don't know if I can show you some. Here's one. $15, supplying this with 2 power, $15 and a victory point. Some tiles on Phase 4 even reward you, whenever you put it down, you get victory points equal to the number of properties you own of that type. So there's that. And some even have an immediate benefit. As soon as it is placed, you earn victory points. So there's different tiles that will earn you various things, and victory points included. Players will take a look and see who has the most victory points. And also, money does factor into that. I don't have a photographic memory, so off the top of my head, I don't know what it is. If I check the manual real quick, it's $10 is 1 victory point. So players will want to count up how much cash they have left, and for every $10 they have, they get 1 extra victory point on this tracker. And whoever has the most victory points will win the game. Alright, so there you have it, a very brief look at City Tycoon. It's important to stress that I did not cover all of the rules found in the manual. This was just to give you a general overview so that you could see how the game was played. So as far as what I thought, honestly I think this is an excellent game. Don't let the playtime fool you. One thing I do look for in the games I review and the games I buy and play, I look for a game that's under 60 minutes, just because my lifestyle is an incredibly busy one. I work full-time, got kids, always running around. I've got, how many pets? Dog, 2 cats, 2 ferrets. So there's just a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of things to do. And I just generally don't have time to play anything longer than 60 minutes. This game is the exception, and even though it's 75 minutes, it's very easy to play. Normally when a game is more than 60 minutes, there's usually at least 8 pages to the rulebook, and there is at least 8 pages to the rulebook here. But it's laid out very simply, it's very easy to understand. It's not that the game is hard to play or hard to understand. It's just simply, it takes a while because there are 4 different rounds, and you're constantly building the city. And because there are different tiles with different effects, you're going to want to think about what tiles you're going to be drafting, what tiles you're going to be laying down, which tiles you're going to be chucking in order to earn money, or either buying a power plant or water plant or electric plant. So there is some decisions to make in this game, and that's where the play time really comes in. If you decide to speed through this game, which you can, I mean, you won't be the best player, obviously, but you can speed through it just by, oh, that tile looks cool, I'll keep that one, sure, whatever. You could do that, and, admittedly, it could take, say, 60 minutes or 45 minutes. You could do that, but you may not win the game. But I guess what I'm trying to get to here is that normally I don't play long games because they are pretty complicated, but in this case, the 75 minutes, it's only because of the 4 rounds. It's not because the game is hard to play. So I would recommend this game to moderately casual / strategic gamers who, are like me and look at the play time and are like, do I really want to buy a game that takes 2 hours to play or an hour and a half to play? I do that, and some of you may do that too. I can tell you, though, that this was a joy to play, even though the play time is 75 minutes. It's very easy to get into, very easy to understand. The rulebook is fantastic. My only criticism, really, is that there's no baggies with the game. And if you watched my unboxing video, you may have seen that some of them, the box insert was damaged. So what I did was I ended up just throwing it away. I threw the box insert away, and because it was ripped, and some of these tiles came punched out already. So I don't know if it was a manufacturing error, or maybe someone actually owned this game at one point, which kind of is silly because some of them were not punched out and then rewrapped it. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But anyway, my game didn't arrive in the best of shape, but that may not be the game's fault. But the game did not come with baggies, and you see how many pieces are in this game. For you not to have, you've got all of these little cubes, you've got these tiles, You've got money. There really should be baggies for each of these components, and there's not. It's just a box and a box insert. Poorly designed, in my opinion. I really think the game could have had a box insert. And like I said, there was a manufacturing error possibly, so there may have been baggies in the game at one point, and I just never got it. I don't know. So yeah, long story short, excellent game. Crappy design when it comes to the box, but other than that, it's a fantastic game. The 75-minute play time is definitely doable even for a busy guy like me. Just because the game is easy to play, it just takes a while to grow your city and think about what tiles you want to put down. So with that being said, if you guys want to check out my full review, you can at www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you can keep up to date with any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.